calling it moderation to make ourselves feel a bit better. It's complete and utter nonsense. We all know it is. It's comical. It's ridiculous when you pull it apart and start to look at it. Like, in my view, if you're going to go back to drinking, just go back to drinking and own it. Does alcohol moderation work? This is the big question that I'm going to answer today. Full power with my views on whether moderation works or not. Can it be done successfully or not? You're about to find out. And don't forget, if you enjoy these videos, please subscribe. Check out the show notes below if you want to come and train with me in the coachbusiness.school to learn everything there is to know about coaching and contribution and giving back, life coaching, executive coaches, or alcohol-free performance coaching. Check out the coachbusiness.school. All right, let's get into today's conversation. Can it work? Does it work? Have I seen it done successfully over the 12 years I've been on this alcohol-free adventure? And I think it's about defining what the word means, because I think that's going to give us a bit more clarity, because I have seen people successfully transform their relationship with alcohol and then drink on occasion. I've absolutely seen that. But I've seen very few people achieve what I define as moderation. So what do I define as moderation? I define moderation as those that really want to drink more but use willpower to drink less. That's moderation. So moderation for me defines someone that is actually resisting the temptation to consume more effectively. And I believe that doesn't work long term. I see this so often. This is probably one of the most common things that I see in the world of alcohol free. Someone will reach out to me, be it on social media or directly, and say, I did a really long stint alcohol free and I absolutely loved it. And you can see them, they're like whole face, body lights up. They're telling me all the wins they got, time, energy, confidence back. They got more stuff done. They was better at their job. Literally this whole big long litany of incredible wins. And I'm like, I can tell where it's going. And then it's like, well, and I decided at the end of 90 days, a year, whatever it might have been, 2 weeks, a month, to try moderation. And now I'm right back where I began. In fact, I'm even feeling a little bit worse off than before I began my alcohol-free adventure. Like, why is that? It's so frustrating. And you can see it in their eyes. And what's really funny about this is the great truth. When people speak it and they tell me all the wins and then they say they're back drinking, I'm scratching my head. And I know they're scratching their head as to, actually, why the bloody hell? Why did I go back? Why did I go back? I've just listed time, energy, confidence, getting more stuff done, best I've ever felt, just joyful, laughing more. And I've been duped back into drinking again, or trying to moderate that thing that clearly did nothing for me in the first place anyway. Because now here I am again, drinking too much, tired, jaded, all those wonderful wins, evaporated. Drudgery again, like confidence starting to seep away, just not my energetic, zestful self. Like, all the evidence is there. Even as people talk, I just listen. That's the skill of being a coach. I just say nothing. And I know as they talk it through, as they articulate it to me, they're basically just telling themselves their own great truth. They were having much more fun on the fun side of the island than they were on the drinking side of the island. Now, so with that clarity in mind, I define moderation then as someone that potentially takes a break from alcohol and then wants to go back to drinking in some shape or form. They've decided, that's it, I've nailed it. I've transformed my relationship with alcohol. Now I will be able to go back and just decide on my terms when I drink and when I don't drink. That's not really moderation for me. Moderation means for me someone that has made that big, statement, I'm going back and, I'm really going to try and do it on my terms, but it's never on their terms when it's moderating. Because moderating means you want more of something and you have to use willpower to resist it. And here's the big problem with moderation. And I wrote about this in my second book, Let's Do This, which was essentially all about willpower and how it works or doesn't work for so many of us. And it's this: willpower's like a metaphorical muscle. The more you use it, the quicker it runs out, right? It runs out. So when you're tired, hungry, emotional, stressed, and all those willpower tanks are depleted, all of a sudden you find yourself in that situation of the one drink and you really want two, and instead of having those willpower tanks to resist the second drink, they're offline. So then you have the second drink and then you're intoxicated. Then it's game over. I'm sorry, but it is. As soon as you step into that arena of 2 drinks, you're in the game. There's like, you're not you, right? Because you've also got to remember, right? Alcohol's a drug and it starts to shut down your brain. The first thing it does is shut down your prefrontal cortex. Your prefrontal cortex is the bit that makes you a human, by the way. We've got to remind ourselves that. It's like going back down the evolutionary chain. It's the truth when we drink. And I really believe that 70,000 years ago, before the cognitive revolution, and we grew that bigger part of our brain, that prefrontal cortex part of our brain, we were just like all the other animals in the animal kingdom. And if you think, that lovely evolutionary chart where we go from an ape and then we eventually stand upright and we're wearing a shirt and tie, it's like going back all the way before we grew the bit that made us human. Like, it's nuts, isn't it? It's the first bit that goes offline is your prefrontal cortex. But your prefrontal cortex also is there to regulate emotion and action. It's the part of your brain that says, actually, you've had one, that's enough now. But it's offline because it's the first thing that goes offline when we have a drink. So you can't moderate if you're already partially brain damaged. And I say that to sound harsh deliberately, because that's ultimately what it is. It's temporary brain damage. How would you describe that? If part of your brain through drinking something was closed down, I would describe that as temporary brain damage. That's what it is. So under the influence of temporary brain damage, you are never going to make the right choices. You just can't do it. This is like the illusion that people are under, and they think, oh no, I can just manage this thing. I can have like 2 or 3 and then call it that. You can't, because it's not you anymore. It's not your like radiant, authentic, wonderful, joyful self. You're under the influence of alcohol. You can't escape it, right? It's so binary in many ways, but we trick ourselves into thinking, oh no, I can moderate this thing. I believe very few people moderate successfully, and I'd argue they never moderate successfully at all. And here's another thing about moderation, just while I'm on a roll. So many people say things like, oh yeah, I moderate alcohol. I have a couple here, a couple there. And my retort to that is, what about weddings? Oh no, we don't moderate then. That's just like gloves off. All right, what about birthdays? No, I don't really moderate on birthdays. What about really stressful days? No, I don't really moderate on stressful days. I'm like, you're not moderating then. We're not moderating. Oh yeah, that's not, like, what is that? That's just normal drinking. Calling it moderation to make ourselves feel a bit better. It's complete and utter nonsense. We all know it is. It's comical. It's ridiculous when you pull it apart and start to look at it. Like, in my view, if you're going to go back to drinking, just go back to drinking and own it. And own it, right? And by the way, I'm going to own this for everyone in the room. There is nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. And I genuinely, wholeheartly believe that. If someone decides they want to drink, good on them. It's not my choice. But that is my choice, right? For it not to be my choice. And that's the only thing I can stand behind. I can't tell anyone else what they should or shouldn't do. All I'm always trying to do is raise awareness and look at it from different angles, and then you can decide. But if someone decides they want to drink, good on them. That's their choice, not mine. And if they've changed their relationship with alcohol and they've been brave enough to take a break, good on them. If they go back to drinking, go for it. What I'm trying to highlight now is this illusion of going back and telling yourselves you're moderating when ultimately you're not. It just looks like it was before. And then what happens over time? Those willpower tanks get depleted, and the 1 becomes 2, becomes 3, becomes 4. Then all of a sudden it looks exactly like it did before. And then I get the knock on the door, or the message to say, I'm right back where I was. How did that happen? I'm like, I know how it happened. Because moderation, with that mindset, again, I'm defining it in that way, that you're really resisting the temptation to have more, you're always going to lose. Is the truth. You're going to get tired, hungry, emotional, willpower tanks offline, 1 becomes 2, and then you're intoxicated, then it's game over. Now, the light at the end of the tunnel for those that are mostly dry. So we define that within our app and wonderful community that is dry, DIY, that we'd have a mostly dry group, because I think that's really important. I think a lot of people change their relationship with alcohol, fundamentally transform it, and on occasion, for whatever reason, not my choice, but it's theirs, decide to have a drink in full, empowered, conscious choice. I think that's very different. And the reason I think that's very different, because it's not saying I'm trying to have one and really I want two and I'm resisting it all the time. It's like, for whatever reason, on this occasion, I'm going to decide to drink. Again, not my choice, but I see that work a lot more effectively than this sort of moderation thing. Now, here's how I think you can get that to work. And by the way, I just want to be really, really clear about this. I'm not encouraging anyone to do that, because in my mind, what's the bloody point? What's the point? What is the point in one? But again, that's my mind, that's not your mind. So I have to be very careful about that. I can only own what's inside my head, and my head says to me, what's the point in one? Just like no value add. And by the way, just while I'm in this little space, I'll come back to the taste in a moment. So for me, what I have seen is those that become almost non-drinkers that on occasion decide to drink. So you've got the moderation mentality, then you've got the non-drinker mentality. Non-drinker mentality, for me, and this is where mostly dry fits in my mind, is like that friend, right? You've all got a friend. We've all got someone like that in our life that we've known forever, right? And they can just nurse one drink all night. And they confuse the hell out of us, because we're just looking at them going, how do you do that? How do you sit there with that one glass of wine or that one pint or bottle of beer or whatever it is, and you don't even appear to drink it? But clearly you do, because eventually it does disappear, and maybe you order a second, like if you're going wild and crazy. And we've all drunk about 6, and they're still nursing their first one. It's just like, I can't get that. Like, that confused me for years, by the way. I was like, what are they doing? Now, in my mind, I thought they had the willpower of a saint, because all we can ever know is our own mind. So through my map of the world, I was assuming they were just like me. I was assuming they were sitting there thinking, I want more, and they're using some sort of saintly willpower to nurse one drink. But the truth is, their brain was totally different to mine. They were a non-drinker in disguise. So let's just define what that is. A non-drinker in disguise. Non-drinker in disguise is someone that's been battered socially with all of that pressure to drink over the years. They've come up with a cunning plan. They do drink, but they barely drink, and it shuts everyone up. I'm owning it. That's the truth of it. It just cuts down all that social pressure, doesn't it? Have a drink. Oh, we've all been through all that. So this is that type of person. I believe for all of those years, they had no interest in drinking, no interest in the intoxication of it, no interest in the fact it was going to destroy their sleep, all of those things. But they would drink just to shut everyone up, to quell the noise of social pressure, because you couldn't say, oh, you're not drinking, because they were technically drinking. And I think that's what was going on. That was confusing us. So rather than sitting there like I was thinking, I need more, they're thinking, I actually don't even want this one. I'll just almost pretend and go along with this. I'll drink it at such a level and such a rate, it never really gets into my body to intoxicate me in such a way anyway. Now, that non-drinker mindset, it works, because they can switch it on and off. They are never sitting there thinking, oh, I'd really like 3, but I'm going to use willpower to want 1. They don't want the 1 in the first place. Right? And I think that's the mindset that confused us. Now, let's build from that mindset. The next mindset, mostly dry, maybe. Someone, in my opinion, that has completely changed their relationship with alcohol. They do not need it in their life. They don't need 3 or 4. For whatever reason, they might find themselves in a situation where they might have a glass, a bit, whatever that looks like. For whatever reason, again, that's their mind, not mine. I still don't see the point in it, but I get it. That is completely different, those two mindsets, to moderation, isn't it? Completely different. Moderation is, I really want 3, but I'm going to use willpower to only have 2. Then it's game over because you're intoxicated. Mostly dry is like, on occasion, for whatever reason, I decide on my terms to have a drink. Fine. Now, there's another mindset that I'm going to talk about that, and again, I'm just talking about these because I'm owning all of it. And I love, like, all people that are courageous enough to challenge their thinking around their drinking. And by the way, I love many, many people who decide to still drink. Of course they do, right? Family, friends, they all drink. We're still the exception rather than the rule. So I don't want to vilify anyone. I think we just have to own all these different types of approaches. Now, Here's a great truth that barely anyone ever says out loud, but I think it's a great truth. Alcohol is a drug. Fact, right? We tried to pretend it's not. We have alcohol and drugs. Alcohol's a drug. In fact, we could make a really strong argument, according to Professor David Nutt, who's in our documentary, that alcohol, given the broadness of harm to society and individuals, and he's done the research around this, alcohol is the most harmful of all the drugs, legal and illegal. Isn't that absolutely mind-blowing when you start to look at it and think about it like that, right? The most dangerous of them all is alcohol. So it's a drug. We have to remind ourselves that. Now, I also feel that a better, more proactive mindset for some people, if we treated it like a drug, people's relationship with alcohol would be completely different. I.e., let's just say there was a big festival coming up, right? And let's own it. Some people take drugs at festivals. I don't know if you're aware of that, but apparently they do, right? And they think there's a big festival coming up. I want to bring something to that festival, a different kind of energy, a different kind of buzz, right? And some people will take illegal drugs. It happens, right? Now, if people treated alcohol like a drug, they might in their mind say, well, I'm going to take the alcohol drug at this festival. I'm going to take the alcohol drug. What's that going to mean for me? I'm going to be absolutely rubbish for a couple of days after it. Exact same they would be thinking if they were taking illegal drugs, right? I'm going to be tired and groggy and grumpy and rubbish, all those things, and maybe I'll book a couple of days off work to get over the fact that I was taking the alcohol drug at that festival, and then they'd take the alcohol drug at that festival, and then they'd do all the things they need to do, and they'd feel rubbish for a couple of days, and then they'd put it away again and go, I'm not going near that again until the next big festival or event. I actually think if people treated alcohol like that, they'd have a much better relationship with it. I'm not saying that's the way to treat it at all, right? You understand that. But do you know what I mean? If they treated it like other drugs, they'd use it completely differently. The problem with alcohol is it's so pervasive in our society, we just use it for everything. I'm tired, let's have a drink. I'm stressed, let's have a drink. It's a Monday, let's have a drink. It's a celebration, let's have a drink. A commiseration, blah, 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 blah. So it's all over our world, all over the time. So let's surmise this little reflection on moderation. I believe, again, through my map of the world, what's the point in moderating? I just don't get it. Like, don't understand it. Oh, before I surmise, that was the other point I wanted to come to. Let's talk about taste. Some people say, I need to drink the odd alcoholic drink because it tastes so nice. Come on, that argument is over. It's finished. It's done. Alcohol-free alternatives now, I've completely broken that argument. The alcohol-free beers are better than the alcoholic ones, and I'll tell you why I know that, because occasionally they serve me an alcoholic one, and I take a sip and I can tell it a mile off that it's got alcohol in it. I'm sure that's happened to many of you. It's happened to me loads lately. I got a Guinness in Ireland that was meant to be a 0.0 and it was a full strength, but I could tell it straight away. The 0.0 then I had tastes way better. The taste argument's gone, and people will cling desperately to wine. They're like, yeah, but wine, and it's like this last bastion they're like trying to hold on to, but the wine doesn't taste as good. It's if like they use, and I'm like, you don't even drink wine. Oh yeah, like, do you know what I mean? It's one of those, isn't it? You don't even drink wine. Yeah, but the wine doesn't match up. Yeah, but you drink beer. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed that little inspirational, hopefully insightful commentary on moderation and whether it works or not. So all the new podcast episodes will be in person in the showroom just to create a different energy to it. So do check that out wherever you get your podcasts from, and if you can subscribe, share it with your friends. That would always be good. All right, have a brilliant day all, and I shall see you soon. See you everyone.